Tune in, Minnesota tonight. Tune in, Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Tune in, Minnesota. Tune in, Minnesota tonight. Tune in, Minnesota tonight. Tonight. Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Yeah. I'll probably take those.
I'm Lizzie Gardner.
I'm Cody Nelson.
And this is the state of Minnesota.
The first of its kind since the 1970s, a boutique Marriott hotel will be opening in uptown Minneapolis in mid-2017. Described as being very neighborhoody and in an area in need of development, the hotel will be right in line with that old uptown feel of brand new unoccupied buildings.
95 dogs were rescued from unsanitary living conditions stemming from a Maplewood couple's unauthorized dog breeding operation. When reached for comment, the couple said, "We were 6 away!"
Valentine-themed coffee cups sold at Target and labeled microwave safe are being recalled after the Consumer Product Safety Commission received reports of the cups sparking in microwaves because of the gold metallic "Love Today" printed on the outside. A seemingly golden container of love deemed safe exploding under pressure. Pretty good metaphor for a relationship, isn't it, Melissa? A settlement between Minnesota Public Radio and the Metropolitan Council gives NPR $3.5 million to deal with vibration and noise interference caused by the Green Line at the downtown St. Paul studios. A spokesperson for KDWB released a statement saying, quote, "The noise from the Green Line doesn't seem to bother us at all. Laser sounds, foghorn, 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 old-timey car horn, sex moan, bazinga," unquote.
On Thursday, reports of Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport claimed that passengers were fuming over long lines at security checkpoints. In order to address concerns, the airport director wrote a letter to the TSA, which witnesses say he promptly crumpled, rewrote, recrumpled, and passively-aggressively threw into the trash. The DEA has given Minnesota a permit to begin growing hemp on an industrial level within state lines. When reached for comment, your friend who loves the band Fish finally had something else to talk about.
State health officials say the rate of people in Minnesota without health insurance has fallen to a record low 4.3% in 2015, down from 8.2% 2 years prior. At press time, those 4.3% were still on the phone with Minsher.
Such a long phone call. The Mall of America has asked a Hennepin County judge to lift the restraining order this week against the 12 leaders of last December's Black Lives Matter protest. Meanwhile, the ban against black teenagers still stands. It's the worst. Citing limited sales growth and a stiff decrease in 2015 fourth quarter sales, Kohl's has announced that they will be closing 18 of their Minnesota stores, leaving suburban teens, specifically named Brandon, scrambling to find a new place to buy his graphic tees.
The Minnesota Timberwolves mascot, Crunched the Wolf, celebrated his 27th birthday last Saturday. Party attendees included the Utah's Jazz Bear, Orlando's Stuff the Magic Dragon, and Crunch's parents, a lazy Timberwolves marketing exec and a bottle of Lagavulin 18s. Former Governor Jesse Ventura told CNN he might run for president as a libertarian in 2016. In related news, for the 230th year in a row, Patrick Henry chooses death.
MSU Moorhead awarded a high school senior a $2,500 scholarship based on the quality of her tweets. Guys, you could have just said you're not doing well. You do not have to blow $3 grand to prove it.
She retweeted me once, actually.
Yeah, well, that's not like a big thing.
But I'm going to Moorhead.
Cool! The St. Paul City Council approved $18 million to fund the new Major League Soccer stadium in St. Paul. When critics brought up that this will be the 5th publicly funded stadium in the last 15 years, the city responded to this saying, "But I really, really, really want this one. I won't ask for anything on my birthday, I promise!"
Sun Country Airlines has applied with the U.S. government to operate 2 weekly nonstop flights from Minneapolis-St. Paul to Havana, Cuba. Twin Cities college students are finally excited to get authentic Che Guevara t-shirts.
College students.
A judge in Minneapolis has ordered 4 terrorism defendants in Minnesota to undergo a de-radicalization program conducted by a German anti-terrorism specialist. The judge said, well, when I think of de-radicalization and turning people away from fundamental beliefs, I think of the Germans.
A local nonprofit is attempting to limit the amount of traffic fatalities in Minneapolis by placing stickers reading "Towards 0 deaths" on the bumpers of thousands of state-owned vehicles. Police cars were not included in this count, however, because the stickers are trying to lower traffic fatalities, not traffic stop fatalities.
Big clarification.
As part of punishment for texting and driving causing a major car accident, a Minneapolis teen has been ordered to give speeches on the pitfalls of distracted driving to local high schools. Cool news, though, if the speech goes viral, then there will be a meet and greet afterwards, so, yeah.
In attempts to curb its growing suicide rates, St. Paul is altering the infrastructure of the iconic Smith Street High Bridge. Efforts include removing the bridge from St. Paul.
Speaking of St. Paul, a person crashed their car into a St. Paul home last Sunday, causing a house fire. Police said they were alerted to the incident thanks to numerous neighbors calling in and saying they were really having trouble hearing Downton Abbey.
Thanks to revealing security footage, a man who robbed an Edina CVS has been branded the Butt Crack Bandit. When reached for comment, a local plumber said, yeah, it's not so funny when it happens to you, huh? After a semi hit a gas station in Mankato, Minnesota, local law enforcement were surprised to find a dog sticking its head out of the driver's side window. In related news, Air Bud 9 just went way over budget.
This April, St. Kate's University will be putting on its annual Women of Substance Festival, which features women who make an impact on the world through various creative and scientific ways. Special guests include adventurous woman Anne Bancroft and Liz Arneson, as well as local female rapper 70 Cent on the Dollar. 70 cents on the dollar, guys.
An argument over new Air Jordans led to 2 men in line outside a shoe store getting shot. That headline again in American, there are 2 pairs of Jordans left at the Brooklyn Center Foot Locker.
Hurry. During a recent campaign stop, Hillary Clinton asked a local Black Lives Matter activist, why doesn't she run for something? The activist was helped on the scene by the Clinton aide, later to be identified as Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton, later identified as a Clinton aide.
Yeah. And finally, in local basketball news, Waseca, Minnesota's Nick DeFault made an 80-foot buzzer-beating shot to knock a state quarterfinal game into quadruple overtime, a game that Waseca later went on to win. In a post-game speech, DeFault said his plans included getting his girlfriend pregnant, opening a sports bar, and just sticking around, man.
Well, once again, I'm Lizzie Gardner.
I'm Jonah Hill in a serious role, and
yes, he is.
That was the state of Minnesota. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Minnesota tonight.
Hi, everyone. Tonight, we'll take 10 to talk about Target Field, which is a lot like Target because there you will see at least 9 people struggling in pajamas. As Minnesota's largest baseball stadium, Target Field is a great place to watch the Twins, a marauding mascot bear, and the bleached white bodies of Minnesota baseball fans. Those guys that you're seeing are not actually cheering, just writhing in pain from being exposed to sunlight for the first time in 8 months. Up until 2010, the Minnesota Twins played in the Metrodome, a place best known for the Minnesota Vikings. But after years of lobbying the state legislature, Twins won the right to build a new stadium in the North Loop of downtown Minneapolis. And since opening, the stadium has been named one of the best ballparks in baseball, especially for being environmentally friendly.
It's 2 more points than the Washington Nationals received, so Minnesota pride, we're very proud to have the greenest ballpark in America.
Shout it out.
Yeah.
Is that how you shout it out, or is that how an alien shoots out of your chest? But this stadium didn't come cheap. The final numbers show that Target Field cost nearly $500 million to construct, with more than 70% of that money coming from Minnesota taxpayers. Guys, they essentially Tom Sawyered us into paying for their stadium. But unlike the original story where Tom tricks his friends into paying to paint his fence, we built, painted, and maintained the Twins fence so we could watch glorified stickball and choke on $8 trash sausages. At this point, you may be asking, why would we spend so much money on America's second favorite pastime? To which I would respond, first, there's still a lot of room in the budget after accounting for America's favorite pastime, which is racism, which people usually just give away anyway. And secondly, we hoped the stadium would create new jobs. And by some estimates, we weren't wrong. Approximately 500 people work at Target Field on any given game night. But when you look at how many of those workers are treated, it turns out their conditions are just as disappointing as the Twins themselves. Take a look at what happens before every Twins home game. That's horrible. No one should stand in line for 3 hours without guarantee of work or pay. Unless you're a single dad outside of a One Direction concert, in which case, good for you for supporting your daughter. But that is only the tip of the iceberg. Local activist group Neighborhoods Organizing for Change looked into the conditions that hundreds of temporary workers were subjected to and found that stadium subcontractors have gotten away with some pretty ridiculous shit. For example, all those workers seen in that video weren't scheduled to work that day. Instead, they were texted the morning of the game and then told to wait in line for work. These workers were treated like a late-night booty call. They might as well have sent them a text saying, "Hey, you up?" And the few lucky enough to work were paid in gift cards. Yes, gift cards. What an incredibly insulting way of compensating your employees. Let's be clear, there's no gift in a gift card. Gift cards are what forgetful cousins buy when they panic after realizing it's December 23rd. It's basically a middle finger in card form. Now, recently, some of the subcontractors at Target Field have admitted wrongdoing and started paying employees wages for their time spent waiting in line. But those employees aren't the only victims of such heinous workers' rights violations in Minnesota. For example, employees of Capital Building Group Services, a company that hires non-union janitors to clean department stores like Macy's and Herberger's, recently filed the lawsuit against their employer after getting paid only $4 to $5 an hour. That's right, these people were paid under half the state minimum wage to keep up the facade that Macy's is nice. Kimco Services, another cleaning service company, settled a court case for an undisclosed amount after workers complained about working more than 35 hours without pay. Unless they were part of a fantastic custodial internship program, that's bullshit. So in case it needs clarifying, not paying employees is illegal. But unfortunately, for the most part, the manner in which these companies have screwed over their workers has been within the bounds of state law. For example, there are currently no laws at the city or state level that prohibit employers from forcing employees to work while they're sick, subjecting them to sporadic, if not truly random scheduling, and paying them ridiculously small wages. And since there are no laws against these things, low-wage workers, many of them Black or Latino, are stuck in a cycle of where hard work doesn't necessarily mean more money, but more poverty. It's like the story of Sisyphus. If Sisyphus had to wait in line for 3 hours before getting to push the rock. The Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development estimates that the basic cost of living for a family in Hennepin County with 2 full-time working parents is $66,000 a year, which would mean that each of them would have to at least make $15 an hour. And even though the state of Minnesota recently raised the minimum wage to $9.50 for workers in large companies, many families in Minneapolis and St. Paul make barely half that, even when working full-time. Based off the statistics I just mentioned, the Minnesota state minimum wage has been deemed unlivable by the state of Minnesota. Now, if you assume that most minimum wage workers are kids living off their parents, trying to get extra cash for hemp necklaces, you would be wrong. The national average age of a minimum wage worker is 35 years old, and 27% of them are parents. As of the last count, that includes 64,000 people in Minnesota. This is infuriating, but there are measures that we can take to change these things. Let's take Seattle, Minneapolis's cooler older brother. In between bong rips and latte art, Seattleites have instituted many reforms to ensure fair compensation and working conditions for every person who works within city limits, such as requiring advanced scheduling, paid sick time off, and increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And while opponents have argued that this would devastate the local economy, it clearly hasn't. Seattle was named recently one of the best cities for small businesses, the fastest growing large city in the United States, and the city with the second best hotel Wi-Fi in the country, a real award that they really brag about on their city website. In Minneapolis and St. Paul, measures like those passed in Seattle are currently debated within the city councils, and you can help pass them by calling your city council representative and telling them that you support this legislation. Whatever your thoughts are on minimum wage or the protection of workers' rights, we can all agree that the target field workers do the jobs that keep the stadium running and the fans happy and entertained, which is a lot more than we could say about the Minnesota Twins. They have not managed to get to the playoffs in 5 years and have had only one winning season in that time. It says a lot about Target Field when the most successful thing happening there is their Bloody Mary bar. So we have an idea here at Minnesota Tonight. If it's too hard for the Twins to treat all of their temp workers with the dignity and respect they deserve, then they should treat all of their employees like they did their temp workers. So, hey, outfielder Max Kepler, get ready to find out about games the morning of by a text that says, "There might be a game, there might not, just show up." Feeling sick, second baseman Trevor Plouffe, well, you don't get paid to be on the DL, so you better show up, and try not to throw up when you're on base. What's that, prize hitter by Young Ho Park? Can't come to practice today because your kid is ill? Sorry, but we're gonna just have to let you go. And this is all perfectly legal and will remain legal until the city council takes steps to protect workers' rights. And finally, to all the Twins players, we couldn't find it in our hearts to pay you with real money. So instead, we will be paying you in gift cards. Hope that's okay with you, Joe Mauer, because over the next 2 years, you're about to get $46 million in Jamba Juice store credit. That's our show. Stay nice, Minnesota. Good night.
Everyone, please welcome to the stage local jazz artist Katia Cardenas.
Thank you.
Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. When she walks, it's like a samba that sways so cool and sways so gentle that when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. Oh, but I watch her so sadly. How can I tell her I love her? Yes, I would give my heart gladly, but each day when she walks to the sea, she looks straight ahead, not at me. Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, I smile, but she doesn't see. Oh, but I watch her so sadly. How she passes, I smile, but she doesn't see. She doesn't see. She doesn't see me. Thank you. Keith Johnson, everybody. That song feels very Brazilian, tropical to me. I don't know about you guys. It's very warm in here. It just felt very appropriate.
I think it's from the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong about that?
Yes, yes, it is.
So, was anybody here around in the 80s? No? Consider yourself lucky. Yeah, I was there. So here's another question for you. It says, anything about the fashion that you would bring back about the 80s?
Shoulder pads.
Say again? The hair.
Shoulder pads.
That would require therapy.
Awesome. We're going to do one more song for you guys. I have recently recorded my debut EP. Thank you. Hi. I just realized I've got another Mac friend here. Hi. Yeah, so if you're interested in hearing more of what we got coming up, this next song is on that EP. It's what we kids these days call a mashup. So if you hear one song and then another one, that's mine. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's Katia Lala2. Katia is spelled like A with it, or spelled like Katie with an A at the end. Spelled like A with a Katie at the end. I don't know. All right, cool. Katia Lala2 on Twitter. So check me out. Keith Johnson. Stayed in bed all morning just to pass the time. There's something wrong here, there can be no denying. One of us is changing, or maybe we just stopped trying. But it's too late, baby, now it's too late. Though we really did try to make it. Something inside has died and I can't hide, and I just can't fake it. Oh no, 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 no. Used to be so easy living here with you. You were light and breezy and I knew just what to do. Now you look so unhappy and I feel like a fool, yeah. But it's too late, baby, now it's too late. Though we really did try to make it. Something inside has died and I can't hide, and I just can't fake it. Oh no, 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 no. In the cool of the evening when everything is getting kinda groovy, you call me up and ask me would I like to go with you and see a movie. At first I say no, I've got some plans for the night, but then I stop and say alright. Love is kinda crazy with a spooky little boy like you. Spooky, spooky. You always keep me guessing, I never seem to know what you are thinking. And if a girl looks at you, I know you're lost, I never know where I stand. But then you smile and hold my hand. Thank you so much. Keith Jentzen.
Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Tune in. Minnesota. Tune in. Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Tonight. Minnesota tonight. Tonight. Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight.